Ladies and gentlemen and lowlives, welcome to this episode of the Emo Brown Podcast. Today we are honored. We have a very special guest. We have County Supervisor Nora Vargas in the house. Let's go.
Well done, BJ. You kept it very diplomatic. You kept it professional. I'm very proud of you, and you kept your hat on. Well done. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Emo Brown, the podcast, brought to you by all of those wonderful brands down below. Tribal, Silk Cloud, Microwave, Liquid Death, and of course, 3 Punk Ales. But none are more important than the guests we have here today. It's voting election season. How do I know? Because my yard is littered with signs. Wifey and I just dropped our ballots off last night.
Yay.
It's official, ladies and gentlemen. None other than County Supervisor Ms. Nora Vargas. Bienvenida. Welcome back. I think it's like your third time here.
Yes. You're one of my favorite podcasts.
The hat trick.
Oh, Jesus Christ. This is a hat trick. You wanted to start a podcast once upon a time.
I still do, but I just have a lot of work right now.
So you're telling me there's a lot of work involved with being a county supervisor.
Yeah, and also starting a podcast.
Oh, my God. Well, we can take care of that for you. That's no problema. Miss Nora, bienvenida.
Gracias,
Welcome
gracias.
back. I'm surprised you had time to fit us into your schedule because you are a very busy person.
Yes.
Normally. Now with election season upon us, being the county supervisor, what exactly does being a county supervisor entail? What are the daily obligations, responsibilities that you hold?
Well, first, let me just say that I'm really happy to be back.
Gracias.
And the reason why I love coming back to Emo Brown, first of all, because I listen to the podcast all the time. And I think it's so much fun. Yeah, but you know why? Because you're really sharing information with our communities and to me, I think this is important, right? Because there's so much misinformation in the news. There's so much misinformation that is out there. And sometimes I think when people hear it from regular folks from the community who just care about the community, it's a big difference. And I really trust the work that you all are doing. I care about the foundation that you all are leading. And I love being your partner in that process. And
Thank you.
It's exciting for me to be here.
We appreciate you. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and there's no bigger truth than what you said. I didn't care about politics, BJ. You know this. We both know this. We don't care. It doesn't make a difference to us until we had kids.
Yeah.
Not you and I together, with our respective
Not yet
parejitas.
anyway.
But I'm just saying, like, I didn't really understand and really took the time to notice and care about it until we had kids and they were here in the elementary school district. Until I had a business here in my district of Chula Vista District
yeah.
3, raising a family, owning a home,
districts, look at
property taxes, all of these things. And then all of a sudden I was like, okay, you know what? Yeah, voting for a president, it's a responsibility we should take seriously. But none more important than doing something locally.
Yeah.
Voting local politicians into power is a big deal because those are the people that pull the strings that, could ultimately determine the daily outcome of your personal lives.
Yeah, and I think that's why it's so important, right? Because I think last time I was here, I talked to you about what does the county do? We're an $8.5 billion organization now, entity, right? We have 3.3 million people who represent the county of San Diego. So for those folks that do not know, County of San Diego is the second largest in the state of California.
That's right,
the
BJ.
fourth largest in the country. So your chair of the Board of Supervisors gets to chair one of the largest counties in the state. And so it's so important because we are the ones that are helping with like basic human needs for folks, right? Whether it's, when I ran for office, I was really concerned that we were returning money to the federal government around CalFresh. And CalFresh allows folks to be able to buy basic food, right? And we know that there's a lot of kids that go to sleep hungry every night. And so if we have these programs that are available, but our community is not applying for them because they're scared or they don't know that these services are available, then as a government, we're not working for everyone. And so that's one of the things that I worked on. We've been able to increase it. I think over 400,000 more people have been able to actually get access to CalFresh. And that's awesome because we did it during COVID, but then we continued. And I think it's an increase of about 6%. So it's basic resources. We also are the public healthcare providers for the region. So we work really closely with local clinics and we make sure that people have access to healthcare. Medi-Cal is really important. That's how a lot of our community members get access to healthcare.
Indeed.
All of these things that are basic, human needs, I think is what the county works on.
It falls on your shoulders.
And it falls on our shoulders because we get money from the federal government, the state government, and then we're able to, and local government, and we partner with folks. So one thing that's really important to mention, the county of San Diego has 18 cities and under those, and then you have unincorporated areas. So unincorporated areas would be Bonita.
What's up?
Uh,
That's right.
Unincorporated.
unincorporated area. So I get to be your mayor in Bonita. I get to be
appreciate
the
that.
mayor of Spring Valley. I get to be, all the areas that don't have actual cities. I get to be your mayor. That means I get to take care of your potholes and stop signs and that sort of stuff.
Very nice.
So yeah, and then I also get to do policy like. We created one of the most progressive climate action plans in the country. And, we declared homelessness a public health care crisis. And of course, the Tijuana River Valley has been a big issue in our communities. And I think the coolest one that I love is that for over 10 years, our community members in City Heights and in the region had been fighting to make sure that public transportation was free for kids. And I've been able to, we were able to get pilot programs started. And so now every person who is 18 and under, every kid gets free public transportation. I mean,
can
that's
attest to
a
that,
huge
BJ.
deal.
I can attest to that. I took my little Rugrats to the Padre games a lot of times this season, and we went on the trolley, and they love going on the trolley. And so long as we have our ticket, they're able to go in there.
Yeah.
A couple of nuggets that I didn't know. We are the 4th largest county in the country.
In the country.
Yes. That's definitely.
We get the clap.
That's an applause right there. Yeah.
We collected.
Yes,
Like
yes.
applause.
You don't have your headset on today, Miss Nora, so we have an array of sound effects now. We have also
love
grown
it.
in responsibilities
I love
here at
that.
the Emo Brown
I love
podcast.
that.
4th largest in the county. Yikes.
In the country.
But in the country,
and
that's
you
scary.
think about, and then you think about, California is the 4th, richest economy in the world. And what does that look like? And so it is the counties who actually have a responsibility and an opportunity to figure out what do people need to make sure that they have a better quality of life, right? And that's, I think, what this particular Board of Supervisors has been doing in the last 4 years, where you have had the majority of Democrats for the first time being elected. But what's really cool is that we really work together across party lines. I get a lot of flack for working across party lines, but I have to tell you that I think it's the right thing to do. People don't realize that in order to get things done in the county of San Diego, you need 4 votes, right? You need to be able to work with the Republicans because otherwise you can't move money. Remember when the floods happened?
Oh, yes.
The floods really hurt our community, especially communities that had been underinvested for decades. I was able to move that, immediately had a special meeting, was able to move $10 million to help the communities that needed it the most. We declared an emergency. We did an eviction moratorium, but it was for a short amount of time, right? Not forever, just so that people wouldn't be kicked out of their homes.
To weather the storm.
To weather the storm. Exacto.
People don't understand. Well, we don't understand just how prepared we are for a local emergency, weather related, until it happens.
Así es.
And when it happened, it was major. People lost homes, lives, loved ones, todo. How are we now compared to when it happened? If something should happen now, are we in a much better place? Have certain needs been identified and addressed?
Yeah, so I think we learned a lot from it. First and foremost, I want to say shout out to the YWCA, shout out to all of the communities in Southeast and in the community who really, really went out of their way to help our communities.
A lot of people rallying together for the common cause.
It was amazing because you know what? Here's the thing. People have to remember, government can't do everything alone. We got 20,000 people working for the county of San Diego for 3.3 million people, right? I represent 650,000 people in my district. So imagine, and I have 12 staff. So, so it's that's why people are like, oh, you didn't call me back. Well, I'm trying. But, it's really important that folks put into context the amount of how big our population is. But the community, I think, was exceptional. And what we just did last week, I was able to turn in what they call a board letter, which is how we do our initiatives, our policies, so that we can make sure that we are prepared for the future. And so we are putting mechanisms in place. And then we're also holding accountable the folks that we have been working with so that they are able to say, okay, what worked, what didn't work, and what can we do better? And that's one of my top priorities, right? How do we learn from anything that has gone on that hasn't worked well and make it better? And I think government doesn't do that a lot. And that's what I've been really focused on.
Responsibility should fall on more than just one group of people. I mean, we live here, Barry. If something happened here in our community, I'd like to think that we were going to rally together and,
I got you.
You got
can
me?
rally with me anytime.
Let's talk about
let's just say Jason was one of the key folks who did more than anyone
Okay.
On this work, right? I mean, he was...
Jason. ¿Cuál es el Jason?
¿Cómo se llama? Sí, Jason. So, anyway.
Big ups Jason out there doing his thing. Talk about Governor Newsom paying us a visit.
Yeah.
Newsom just came down here, from what I read, understand, the first time visiting La Frontera.
Sí.
First time coming to the border and taking a walk.
Well, first time coming to visit the IBWC, the Tijuana River Valley.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is going on down there? Give us a little background first on then, and then a reason on why he came down here.
So for decades, the Tijuana River Valley has been, I believe, underinvested, right? In the infrastructure. So there's tons and tons of sewage coming from the Mexican border, impacting our communities, impacting our beaches. This has been going on, like I said, for decades. I always share with folks that I used to work for the local congressman back in the early 1990s. Que ya estoy viejita.
The late 1900s.
And that's when the actual plant was created, the IBWC, right? All of that was established. What happened was that there was really no money in there for operational, long-term operational support. And so it's been really impacting our communities, and we have a new commissioner. So there's something called the IBWC, the International Boundary Water Systems, and they are the ones. There's a commissioner, Maria Elena Giner, who has been there for a short amount of time, and she came in there 4 years ago with the Biden administration, and she said, "Hey, wait a minute, the pump is not working, and so it's not doing its job." And so yesterday, we actually were able to be there because the congressional delegation has done an exceptional job in advocating for additional funding. They got $300 million first, and then another $156 million, I think, so that we can expand the plant and so that things actually work. Because otherwise, what happens is all of that sewage goes into our beaches, and our beaches were closed for over 1,000 days. Then they were open, and then they're closed, and so. The problem with this is that we need Mexico to do its part, right, with the infrastructure, which they are doing for the first time in decades.
I was reading there's movement. There's things
movement
happening. What do you attribute that to? What is the reason that all of a sudden it's happening?
I think just really collaboration.
Hey.
And Manuel López Obrador, the president, and now Claudia Sheinbaum, both really understand how important this is for the region. Number one. And then also Marina del Pilar, the governor from Baja, also understands how important this is. And so working with her and the new mayor of Tijuana has been, I think we all are working together, understanding that it impacts our communities directly.
Indeed.
And so bringing the governor was really important because he has been helping us, right? There's been money allocated, over $30 million for some of the funds to clean it up. There's also been funding that has been given to us for the air purifiers, right?
Yes.
Because that was really a huge deal. I did a pilot program first because I was trying to figure out like short-term solutions, because this is going to take 4 to 5 years for the plant to be where it needs to be. But
in order to clean it up and become more operational, that's how long it's going to take for the actual plant.
Expansion,
okay.
For the expansion of the plant, so they can, really do its job to where it needs to be. But we need to find solutions now for our communities, right? So there's the project in the San Antonio de los Buenos. There's our part that we have to do in San Diego. And then there's a lot of work that we're doing as a county to make sure that we're supporting that so that people can basically breathe clean air, swim in our beaches.
It's a priority.
But you think about it, right? How is it that this is happening and where it's happening? Because if this was happening anywhere else in a different zip code, people would not allow it. And so there's a lot of options and opinions of how we need to do this. For me, I don't believe in just kind of having knee-jerk reactions to things. I really believe that if you're going to do something right, you have to really think about community has to be included. And I'm not just talking about 2 or 3 political people who are advocates all the time, which is really important. But the people who are going to be impacted directly, we need to knock on their doors, talk to them, and engage them. And people are super busy. You started off the podcast by saying, I didn't really care about this until it actually impacted me directly.
It's not a problem until it becomes your problem. Until it's in your front yard and you're all of a sudden you're like, okay, what's going on?
And what makes me, I think, skeptical sometimes is that we overpromise our communities of what we're going to deliver, right? So this idea that we're going to have a super fund that is going to come in and save everything. The truth is that, it worked when the super fund was created in Niagara Falls. It worked. But there's other places like in New Jersey where people are still waiting after decades and decades and nothing has been done. So I love the federal government, but I'm not sure that I trust them completely to take over this community when you have people who have equestrians and people play baseball there. People are living there. They have their homes. And so we have to be very mindful about policy and the long-term impacts that it has on our communities. It can't just be, there's no silver bullet for this is what I'm saying.
There really isn't, because this is a legitimate problem and a legitimate issue that's been going on here for years. And again, I didn't know, because we live in Imperial Beach.
Yeah.
I live here in Chula Vista, but my kids are in Little League now. So we go and we play games down there at Southwest Little League.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, this is what's going on. Or
Can I tell you that so I declared the Tijuana River Valley a public health care crisis. I got sworn in January 4th. February, I declared a public health care crisis. And everybody was like, what? And I'm like, this is the biggest environmental justice. And I was working very closely with the mayor of Imperial Beach, the council members, our mayor of San Diego, everybody on this, because we all knew that this is a priority. Mm-hmm. I think where we are right now is that different people have different ideas of how we need to solve it. And the way I look at it is we need to look at it from a regional perspective, and we need to keep pushing the federal government to do its job.
They require a lot of pushing along, huh?
Yeah, well, think about it, right? There's a lot of priorities, and it is our responsibility to make this a priority. And so for me, different people have different perspectives of what's important. I'll tell you, as you're talking about, I love baseball.
Mm-hmm.
We'll always be a Padre fan. We almost made it this year, but and I guess I'm supposed to support the Dodgers.
Almost. It's always almost, man.
Steve still won.
Yeah. Hey, be quiet. We don't talk about that.
Pero, when I got elected, I was out there. They invited me to pitch, to throw the first
ceremonial
pitch.
first pitch.
Yeah, and I think that's so much fun, right? To be with the community.
Did you get it there or did you bounce it?
I did perfectly well. I'm fine.
What does that
it was
mean?
good.
Did you bounce it?
No bounce.
Okay.
It was perfect.
Tiro un strike.
I did the same thing at
50 Cent?
I don't know if you know that I actually got to do it at the Padre game too, 2 years ago.
Okay, that's what I thought you were talking. Yeah, okay.
No, I was talking about the actual Little League, right?
Okay,
when I do it in the Little League.
Yeah.
And they didn't have access to bathrooms, right?
No.
These kids had to go to the AM PM to go to the bathroom. So I think these communities have been underinvested for such a long time. La gente está desesperada. They're tired.
Yes.
And they don't want to believe politicians anymore because everybody has promised shit to them always, right? And
Overpromise, underdeliver.
Yes. And so I'm always very cautious about just saying, oh, this is going to be the silver bullet. This is going to be that. Because the truth is that it's not. A super fund will take 3 years, 10 years, depending, right? And I don't know. I actually don't know the answer, which is what I said. I said to the board, let's do an actual analysis of what this looks like, and let's do it right. Es más vale hacerlo bien que hacerlo rápido. And to me, it's extremely important because that's why people don't have faith in government, because you keep promising that you're going to do things, and then bureaucracy gets in the way, all sorts of other stuff gets in the way, and people are like, otra vez.
Yep.
When I was running the first time in 2019, there was a lady who gave me a beautiful Hawaiian tree, like flowers,
Okay.
I can't remember what it's called right now, but están muy bonitas. And she said, I'm going to give it to you, and I want you to plant it somewhere that you can remember every day why you do what you do, which is for the community.
Very nice.
And not anyone else. And it's the Hawaiian plant.
Please tell me it's still alive and thriving.
It is alive and thriving. I'm going to send you a picture so you can see it. Because to me, it reminds me every day that it's not about the political game, because politics for me is about public service. It's not a political game, right? It's about really doing the work that you need to do for communities. Y a veces te tiran chingazos y no pasa nada, right? Because you got to do the right thing for communities. You can't do it because it's going to get you higher numbers on the polls or because it's going to get you this or that. I'd rather do it well and do it right than just get a newspaper article somewhere. And that's who I am, and I've always been that way. Is it tougher for my staff? Yeah. It's tougher for everybody else. But I'd rather do that because for too long, right? When I talk about being the first Latina in 200 years getting elected, the responsibility that I carry with me is not, this isn't a joke. This is not a game. This is not a ver qué pasa, or I'm going to run for this, or I'm going to run for that. This is about the work that I'm doing right now and how do I deliver for my community and do it well.
Let's talk about that, because you mentioned that you were sworn in January 4th.
Yes.
Correct.
2020.
And now we're up for re-election again.
Yes.
Let's run it back. You're not tired of this position yet?
Oh,
it's not overwhelming. It's not taxing on you emotionally, mentally, physically.
I have worked really hard to make sure. So I always love to behavioral health is one of the most top priorities for the County of San Diego. We've invested over $1 billion in the work that we've doing, more than any other Board of Supervisors had ever done, right? Which is super exciting. And I share that with you because I think mental health care is so important. And in our communities, there's so much stigma around mental health, right? So I love telling people, I have a therapist that I talk to almost once a week, sometimes twice a week, depending on my schedule.
Depending on how rough the schedule was this week.
And she's lovely, and we do a Zoom call. And I think it's really important to take care of yourself, right? Because if you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of others. And so I've learned throughout the last 4 years, listen, I hit the ground running. Estaba COVID. I mean, and nobody had ever gone through that, right? So
it's been a rough 4 years in office. I'm not going to lie to you. You've had a lot. I mean, all of us, small business owners, parents, family members, everybody's had a lot of curveballs thrown to them. Things that we had never really knew how to plan for.
Yes. And then we had, a vacancy on the Board of Supervisors, right? And then we have a new supervisor. And then we had... I told somebody we've had hurricanes, we've had 100-year flood, we have all these different things,
pandemics,
and we have a new CAO, right? And having to go through that process to elect the new CAO. And then I've also been the chair of SANDAG, the San Diego Association of Governments, and there we also did the recruitment process for a new CAO. And change isn't easy for people. And so what I've done is I try to do the best to take care of myself. I have my 2 doggies and I have an awesome family. And I just do the best that I can to make sure that I'm, if I manage myself so I can take care of myself and then do the best job that I can for my community.
Running it back then, huh? How is this campaign going? How's everything going leading up to it?
It's pretty good. I mean, I think everybody says, oh, you have nothing to worry about because you're a Democrat and the majority of folks are doing it. I'm like, I don't take anything for granted because I want Republicans to vote for me. I want independents to vote for me. I want the community to vote for me because I've done a lot of work for them for the last 4 years, and I'm hoping that they will give me a chance to continue that work for the next 4 years.
I hope you're voting, BJ.
Got my ballot already.
Yeah, okay, it's ready, but did you fill it out?
Yeah, I'm working on it.
Oh, you're
taking my time.
It's not a freaking... All right, good on you.
Just before November 5th.
Yes, exactly. November 5th.
Unless you're not voting for me, then you can vote November 6th. Just kidding.
There it is. There it is. That is, I would say, the easy part. Like your responsibilities and everything you do, quote unquote, the easy part. Because the way I view it, the scrutiny and everything that a politician, especially locally, like we were talking before the podcast started, I have, by a victim of circumstance and the podcast and the businesses that we operate, I know a lot of local politicians now. And I did not know what they went through until I got to know them on a personal level. And I'm like, holy cow, man. Yeah. Really? This is what you signed up for, and this is what you want to put yourself and your family through simply to get to this position? And all of them have said yes. One of them was a little wavering a little bit, but I'm like, you guys are putting yourselves out there, and especially somebody in your position.
Yeah. So I want to make sure I share with folks that this shouldn't be the normal. This should not be the new normal, right? Getting death threats and having to have detail because I have to have security now because
you
people...
You had 4 people come in with you. 2 guys came in and scoped the scene. I was like, I told BJ, hey, drop the weed, fool. And then, but we were just like, it's that serious now.
Yeah. And I think what's important, somebody said, oh, I can't believe, she has security. And people forget, right? The mayor has security. The district attorney has a security. The county supervisors didn't have security before because it was a very different type of supervisors, right? First of all, they were all non-people of color. So it was a very different... I think there's some levels of racism and prejudice and microaggressions that take place because, you have a Latina telling people what to do and leading the way. I mean, I think people have a really hard time with that, but that's a whole other podcast for a different day.
We can relate to that because we're married to Mexicans. And guess what?
I get told what to do all the day.
Mexican women tell me what to do every day of my life. My abuelita, my mom, my wife, my sister.
You're a smart man. You understand how powerful and important that is,
indeed,
right?
Indeed.
But I think what's really, critical about this is that we cannot let this be the new normal, right? A person... while I'm sitting at the Board of Supervisors last meeting, 2 meetings ago, he thinks it's okay to text me at 2:15 in the morning and keep texting me all the way until 5 p.m. 4 p.m. or 3 p.m. whenever he thought it was okay and saying all these things to me because my information is accessible to the community, right? Everybody who knows me has my personal cell phone number. And everybody has, for the most part, most people are very good about only reaching out when they really need something or my office can't help them and something. And, but having somebody who's like, harassing you and stuff, I mean, that's a little unnerving, right? I have cameras in my home. I have it's a whole different way of life. And it shouldn't be the normal because this is public service. And I should be able to leave a meeting and go to the doctor's and then go to a Padre game at 6:00 at night. I mean, I don't have to be able to tell people exactly what I'm doing all the time. And you know what's really sad about all this? That they look at my calendar like, well, the doctor appointment wasn't on the calendar. No, because I don't put anything personal on my calendar because everybody wants to know what I'm doing. And there has to be a little bit that is mine. Everything cannot be the public's all the time. And I can have that conversation with anybody all the time because, if I want to take my dogs to walk and I put it on my calendar, what if somebody, with the amount of death threats that I get and you put that public, you're endangering me. You know what I mean? And that's not fair. And my sisters and my brother, they're very concerned about my well-being and if I'm going to be okay. And I try to tell them it's going to be fine, but they don't think this is fine. And I don't think this is fine. Like people should not be able to threaten you and to think that it's okay because I'm a public servant, right?
No, anybody, but
Yeah.
it's true. I feel you have a bigger target because of, your background,
Yeah.
where you've come from, how far you've gone.
Yeah.
Well,
when I ran, they told me don't tell anybody that you're I think I told you this before. Don't tell people you're binational. Don't tell people that, because people are not going to like that. I'm like, oh my God. And the thing about it is if you see look at what happened the other day in Madison Square Garden, right? That people think it's okay to talk about our communities the way they did. And to me, it's like we're all Puerto Rico right now. No se vale. It's not okay, right? And it doesn't matter. I know who I'm voting for. And of course, I'm all Team Kamala 100,000%, right? And I'm working really hard to get her elected. But I think as a community and people of color, we have to really stop and say, it's not okay. It's not okay that people treat us this way. It's not okay that people talk about us this way because children are watching and they're listening, right? And you have bullies in schools that we don't allow them to do that, but then it's okay to be a bully to your supervisors or to your elected officials or people who are running for president saying what they're saying and allowing people to say what they say. What kind of country do we want to live in? Freedom of speech, 100% support it. I believe it's really important. Everybody should be engaged. But con respeto.
There's lines were crossed.
Lines are crossed. And it's not okay. And we need to put a stop to that because I guess, again, this cannot be the new normal.
It's been this way now for a while.
Yeah.
And it's weird because I feel like we all went through that, not all of us, but the country went through a cancel stage, a cancel period where you couldn't say things and without the risk of retribution and being canceled. Yeah. But now I feel like that is gone out the window and it's more so lo que quieran. Sí. Digan lo que les dé la gana.
Pero no, depende quién lo dice. It depends on who says it, right? Because if I go out and say something like that, I can assure you I would be crucified, right? But the people who are saying it, are very different than me. They look different than me. They have wealth and they're in a different space.
So in 2024, all this still exists?
Still exists. But I believe that we can still change it around. I really do believe that if that we can do things differently. I believe that our communities actually care. And what I saw, like I said, with how people stood up, right? I had a one day of inviting everybody in the community to come and volunteer when the storms happened, the flood happened. So many people volunteered. I was able to work with our local elected officials, Council Member Vivian Moreno, Assembly Member David Alvarez, Council Member Carolina Chavez, all of us, right? And we all happen to be Latino because we're the ones representing South Bay. But we all work together to try to help our communities. And that's what this is about, right? It's how are we going to invest the $8.5 billion into our communities? Yeah. Bring it back to us, right?
Very much.
Yeah.
There's a lot of truth in that.
Yeah.
You got to let me know where I can find some of this money. we got to scratch a little bit out for ourselves. You got to let us know where to
apply for grants.
How important is the upcoming election on a national scale?
100%. Super, super important. To me, I've been to Arizona. I was in Yuma. Y luego me mandaron a San Luis, which is right on the border. and having conversations with folks and reminding them to get out to vote. I think there's voter fatigue.
Okay.
Right? I think people are tired of the election because the election has been going on.
Political fatigue.
Right, political, because people don't like politicians. Why would you? I mean, it's all this negative.
I love them. Keep it coming. More coming next
please.
week. All of you guys, come on through.
But I think it's it's that piece of like, don't come to me only during elections.
Yes.
Work with me throughout like the non-election time. And then I think because there is so much negativity going on in the news and podcasts, and you can get information from so many places that people are just like so tired. And then how do you decipher what's real and what isn't?
That is also true.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm like obsessed with what's happening with P. Diddy, and then I like get all this other stuff on Trump on TikTok.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's like there's a lot of information that people have to like decipher.
And I mean, for me personally, I know BJ adheres to the same rule of thumb is we have different outlets for all of them. And then you kind of have to take all these things down and be like, okay, now I filter them. What's true? Because if you listen to one platform, they're telling you one thing.
Yeah.
If you listen to another platform, they're telling you the completely opposite of that thing. So it's like, oh shit.
Well,
and for us that are not really as informed as somebody as you, it's like, oh shit, well, where is this? Where is this?
Well, and think about it, right? I don't get to sit down and have real conversations with folks about issues for more than 3 minutes or 2 minutes. You have to do sound bites.
Hey.
And if that day you're tired or something and you forget something, te fregaste. Like, because the sound bite isn't out there.
Yeah.
And or if you say something wrong,
You
and
guys
so
are under the microscope, Nora. Like,
Yeah,
legitimately,
yeah.
you gotta be on all the time.
Yeah. Because if you're not, it is.
It sounds like
But
every week is a therapy day week. You know?
Yeah. So I told somebody yesterday, I said, the good news is, I just say it like it is.
Yeah.
What you see is what you get. So I don't have to worry about that because, I'm telling you the why and why I do things the way I do. And I'm not perfect in any shape, way, or form, but I try to do my best to make sure that people know what I'm thinking and why I'm thinking what I'm thinking and then get it out. What was really hard, though, is that it is an election year and I couldn't use my voice for 9 weeks.
I remember you saying that. Yeah.
Entonces, that was like, oh my goodness, right? Because number one, that's my superpower, to be able to engage and talk to communities and people. And when people ask me questions, I can answer. I was walking around with like little notepad and signing things and letting people know. And I still had to run the meetings, right? Because there's a lot of work to be done. I didn't miss meetings because of it. Nobody reported about that, right? That didn't make the news.
Look at you.
But
I like these little digs.
but what's important, I think, is that I realize how much better we have to do to make sure that other people can get the information that they need if they can't hear or they can't see, And so it gave me a very different perspective about how people get their information and how we get it to them.
It's
as
crazy.
well.
It's crazy. And there's a sense of responsibility, even as something so low tier as what we do. I feel like we have a legit responsibility now to like present people that visit us in a positive light. And it's like, we don't want to do this and then just kind of come across as being, oh, these guys aren't taking it serious. I assure you, every guest that we have on here, we take very serious. There's a lot of responsibility on you guys' shoulders.
Yeah.
And it's reason 784 that you will never see me running for anything but the paletero, man. Dog.
That's more of a light jog.
Yeah, that's a brisk walk.
Jogging.
A little brisk walk.
I went to Nikolov Elementary about 3 weeks ago. And there were about 150 kids, mostly kids of color, right? And there was some kids who were learning Spanish who were in the immersion programs. And I got to talk to them. All these little kids, I gave them all a pin, and they all did a ceremony where they all became supervisors for a day. So they have the little pin, and they did it. And they were able to ask me questions. I read a book for them. And, they had never experienced meeting a county supervisor before, right? And they asked me, so did you always want to be a county supervisor? I said, I didn't know what a county supervisor was.
I didn't even know that role existed.
I didn't know what it was when I was a little kid, right? To me, a supervisor was like somebody who's managing some people. But so being able to share that is really powerful and important. And then I met with the 6th graders, and I was so nervous about the 6th graders because they're like, esta vieja aburrida. Right? Like, they're like, who is this lady, right? And had a great conversation with them, talked to them about what the 18 cities were in the county of San Diego, what the county does. And then, they asked me a lot of really great questions. I got them I introduced them to my team. My team members were with me. And, all my team members are like, they all went to like, they all have graduate degrees. They're echándole ganas, right? They're all working so hard. And I wanted these young people to see that it's not just a supervisor, that there's all these other jobs that you can have in government that can help you have a better quality of life. And so I think to me, that's the other part that is really important about this. Or being able to create the little libraries in the county of San Diego, right?
Yep.
We didn't have little libraries. When I got here, I remember that town hall that I had in San Isidro. And the little girl said to me, you know, my mom goes first of all, I just thought it was so cool that they were telling me the story, right? Because little kids, sometimes if they don't know you, they don't want to talk to you.
If they have the sixth sense inside of them, it's like, I don't want to talk to this person. Little kids hate me, bro. They hate me.
Maybe
It is me.
La vibra.
La vibra.
But anyway, and so she says, you know, my mom takes me to La Jolla on the weekend so that I can get books. And I was like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
She should be able to get books. So now we have little libraries in South County, particularly in San Isidro and other communities. I was talking to the ladies of the San Isidro Women's Club yesterday about like how we're going to create more, expand more on that. But it's take a book and leave a book, right? And to me, it's like those are the kinds of things that are really positive for our communities that had not been done before, that I think bring a sense of community, of I see you, and let's continue to do this work because this is your county, this is your taxes, and let's make it happen so that you can have a better quality of life.
I don't think we put enough value in the importance on little kids, teenager, adolescents, looking at somebody doing something in a prominent position that looks like us.
Yeah.
I was talking when we had David Alvarez on here, Assemblyman, the importance of having somebody like him be active in the community.
Yeah.
You know, what is your role? What do you do? And then you get kids. He's from Barrio Logan. So having kids from that community, from that barrio, look at him and be like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
I can do this? It's like, yeah, you can do this. I don't think we put enough value into that because there's nothing more important than a little 6, 8, 10-year-old looking at somebody and be like, oh, he's a baseball player. He's from here. I want to do that. Oh, he's an actor. He's from here. He looks like me. He has the same last. I want to be like him.
Yeah.
It's just awesome to give these kids an opportunity and options. Be like, there's more routes that we can take.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, and I think the powerful part about that is I love telling kids, right? So I was born and raised in Tijuana. English is not my first language. I used to do all of my work in Spanish, then translated into English. I went to community college for 3 years before I transferred. I mean, my journey has been one that hasn't been like, oh, I was a straight A student, went to Harvard, and here I am. No, I was a really good student, but it wasn't, English was really hard for me. And so having to learn how to read and write and it was just, part of one of the things that I had a barrier that I had to overcome. But I turned it around and it became, like I said, a superpower, right? I'm able to speak and read and have wonderful conversations with communities in English and in Spanish and can be in any room.
that's legitimately a superpower.
Yeah,
it really is.
It is. And I love it because I think being able to share with folks. So they just made me the chair of the Immigration Reform Task Force for the National Association.
Where do you keep all these chairs, man? Jeez,
It's a lot of furniture.
It's a lot of furniture, bro.
My sister makes a fun. Dice, la silla, me dice. Eres la silla.
¿Te dicen la silla?
La silla, mi hermana. And
Aquí
I'm
viene
like,
mi
what are you
tía, la
talking
silla.
about? And so, but to me, is they asked me to chair this so I'm on the National Association of Counties, so all the counties in the country. And so they appointed me to become the chair on the Immigration Reform Task Force. And I said,
That's a lot of responsibility right now.
Sure is, especially because, the amount of asylum seekers that come into San Diego and the work that we've been doing to try to make sure that people are treated with respect and with dignity so that they can reach their final destination. And I think San Diego has been a leader on this and a partner with the governor and the federal government trying to do what's right for our communities. Because what I always tell people is nobody wants to leave their home country. Nobody wants to leave. Imagine if you had to leave right now, right? What would that be like?
Where am I going?
I don't know, but what would that be like, right? Imagine leaving your family and your friends so that you can have a better quality of life because you're leaving somebody trying to prosecute you, be after you. And to me, I think it's like putting into context is a different perspective. And so anyway, it's great to be able to share with folks those stories and then be able to say, and then I went to, the University of San Francisco. I came back. I worked in government. And the great thing about it is, like, I tell my nieces, right? One of my nieces just graduated from Berkeley.
Very nice.
She wants to be a lawyer, and I'm like, no, but she wants to be in politics. I'm like, stay away from politics. I'm just kidding. But I tell her, there's a lot of opportunities for you. And my younger niece is at Southwestern, and she wants to be a medical doctor. And I said to her, even if you're halfway through your career and you decide that's not what you want to do, it's okay. That's the beauty of America.
Yes.
You can reinvent yourself and do whatever you love, because you only have one life, one journey. So decide what you want to do and enjoy it. You got to do things that you love, because if you don't love what you do, what else is there?
Yeah, do it with passion or don't do it at all.
Exactly. And I think it's a privilege to be able to do that, right? Because some people are not able to do that, and they have to just trabajar por trabajar.
A chingarle.
Right?
Every day.
No nos queda otra, because we have to survive. But I want people to have those opportunities, especially our young people. I want them to have hope, and I want them to believe that they actually can be whatever they want. And if they change their mind in the middle of it and want to do something else, que lo hagan. No
There is
pasa
no
nada.
right template. There is no
Exactly.
just one way to do things. I think
Exactly.
that's the older I've gone and realized it's like there is more than one way to get to your destination.
I know.
I was 38 when I figured out I didn't want to be in finance and banking anymore, and then I said, I want to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
I want to own a small business. Again, it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of support. Without my family, there's none of this is actually possible. But still, that's the beauty of what you're saying is we
Yes.
got to show these kids that, hey,
Yeah.
you can do whatever you want, man.
Well, and I think that's the other point, right? The family part. And I wish we would talk more about that as Latinos and as communities of color, right? Because I think that's what makes us such a strong community. Because really, in the end, is whether it's your chosen family or the family that you were born into, that keeps us really strong to be able to do the work that we want to do. I mean, I know that's what keeps me going every day, right? And I think that's really powerful. And I wish that's what they were talking about, instead of the nonsense that's happening about our Latino communities and the misinformation about who we are, that we actually talk about how, we're so hardworking, we're so dedicated, we are a community that actually takes care of each other, and that really is advancing, and that to me, I think, is really, really important.
Unfortunately, nonsense sells.
Yes.
That's what moves the dial. That's
know.
what captures people's attention. That's what makes irrelevant things all of a sudden on the forefront.
I know.
Politically, entertainment, todo
Yeah,
el pedo.
así es.
Again, I tip my cap to you. No sé cómo.
Gracias.
Like you came in here at 11 in the morning, called that. We're not your first stop.
No.
What did you do before you even got here?
Yeah, you asked me that question and me fui por la tangente. Okay, so this morning I woke up at 5:30. I play with my dogs because they're, I don't get to see them. Mis pobres huérfanos, los perros. No, they're fantastic. I get to see, I have a video camera.
Huérfano means orphan. DJ, just in case you were unaware, I saw you glazed over. Huérfano, orphan.
But so my doggies, I play with my doggies, and then make coffee and stuff, and then start reading everything one more time about what I have to do for the day.
How long does that take? How long is that list?
Depends. And then I start texting everybody if I need more information. So I try to wait until it's at least 7:30 or 8 because, but today I was on a radio show this morning at 7:30 in the morning. So I had to be prepared for that. And there was a lot of questions. And then after that, had a couple of things that I needed to take care of. And then I ended up, I went to a Prop 35 prep rally to ask people to vote for Proposition 35, which is Medi-Cal, right, to make sure that people have access to Medi-Cal. And
have you gone there yet, BJ, on your election list?
Yes, on Prop 35.
Let's say I haven't. Break it down for me.
Okay.
Prop 35 is a yes.
So just reminding folks, right, about how important healthcare is to our communities, and that initiative is going to help us. And then came here, and then I have about, I think, 2 or 3 more events today. But the thing about it is, like, so you have events, but then you also have to do the work. And so that's like, getting briefings, giving opinions, making recommendations of what we need to do, and then whatever else comes up is important. And then, because I serve on so many committees and I'm the chair of so many committees, I have to be able to work with all of the other agencies and entities to make sure that things are getting done on agendas and asking questions, and that people have the information that they need.
I don't know how you have the bandwidth. I don't know how you get it all done. That
okay,
is
I'm going to tell you a secret.
I'm ready.
So before I became a supervisor, I was an executive at Planned Parenthood, right? And so Planned Parenthood is the largest reproductive healthcare provider in the region, also the first Latina there. And I had staff, but they were not allowed to help me prep for any of the political stuff that I was doing. So I served on Southwestern College Board, right, for I think it was 8 years. I always tell people I had to do that work without staff. I had no staff. So I had these big binders that would come with information. So I had to learn. I'm a speed reader, so I can do that. And then I served on CalSTRS, the Teacher Retirement Board, and I'm not an expert in that field. So that one was another one that I was always getting briefings and stuff. Had no staff, so I had to do it all by myself. And I served on a whole bunch of boards. HOPE, which was the Latina board, NALEO, the National Association of Latino Elected Officials. I served on local commissions here. So I was doing a lot of different things with no staff. Now I have 12 staff.
Okay, so you
staff.
have 12 people under you right now. Is that including your security detail?
No, they're not included in that.
The expendable dudes that were here? Jeez Louise.
No, but I have, and so thank God I have them because all of them are, they become experts on their issues and they're able to meet with people. They're able to meet with the community. It's, at Southwestern College, I represented about 450,000 people. At the county, I represent 650,000 plus, just the county as a whole, because the needs, you have to think about things from a regional perspective, not just from your district, right? So I feel like I'm like really blessed now because I have people who help me.
Yeah,
I didn't have that before.
I take it back. It looks like you're taking the easy way out now. You got too many people under you that are doing all the work.
No.
Is there a lot of responsibility in knowing that these people depend on you?
100%. 100%.
And not just your staff, your
community. But here's the thing that's really different, right? I want to make sure that I share this with you because I think for a long time, the Board of Supervisors didn't look like people like me. When I became a supervisor, my goal was to make sure that I got people that look like me to now be part of the board and the jobs that we have. And by that, I mean communities that, people who represent the communities that I represent. All people, all backgrounds, so that they could actually participate and get engaged in this process. So I had, for the first time, most of the staff that I was working for me had never worked in government before.
Oh, okay.
Right? So not only are they doing their jobs, they're also learning along the way. And
untainted.
One of my coaches said, because I have a coach, said to me, that's really hard work because most elected officials come in there and they actually have people who've been doing this work for 20 years, 10 years, 15 years. So they are actually able to just direct you and then you give opinions. This is different. I'm teaching people how to do their jobs as they're going along. But to me, it's extremely important to invest in them, right? And I have very high expectations on folks because the reality is that I don't get a lot of chances to do this work, right? I got 8 years and that's it. 4 years, if I get reelected, it's 8 years. And teaching folks how to do this job is extremely important because what I said to them is that from here, you need to go to become the CEO or the director. This is not going to be your job forever, and it shouldn't be, right? So they have to learn things while at the same time they do, and that's tough. That's tough because you're actually, investing in people to get better. Yeah. But, we have to do that. Otherwise, it's never going to change. It's going to be the same old people doing the same old work.
And I get it. I hear commentary from the other side. Oh, no, we don't want that kind. But yes, we do. You need to have different perspectives. Our country is not just one unilateral point of view. It's many different point of views from different backgrounds. Yeah. And I think that's what makes us here.
Well, and I often tell people, right, these institutions were not created by us or for us. And so what I'm doing is I'm creating policy, I'm breaking barriers, trying to change institutions that are not used to people having the ideas that I come with or my life experiences, like saying things like the community has to be included. I'm not the savior of people. I'm a public servant. My job is to come up with recommendations based on what the community needs and looking at things from different lenses. I'm not, as a politician, you don't have all the answers. And any politician that tells you that they have all the answers doesn't know what they're talking about.
Write down in your little ballot, BJ.
Got it.
All right.
Yeah.
You've said it all. I think you said a lot of things today. A lot of new things I didn't even know. I like a fourth largest county in the country. That blew my mind.
Yeah.
That blew my mind because I always view San Diego, us here, as just as a big sleepy town.
Yeah.
You know. But you gotta dig a little bit under the surface.
Recognize.
Yeah, and then you realize exactly how much power we possess down here.
And the power of our border region, right? That's the one thing.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
You got to think about it. Right now, at the forefront of all politics, number one is immigration. We live at the busiest port of entry in the world.
Yeah.
more people cross here in San Isidro than anywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I hear a lot of things and I don't see a lot of those things that actually happen here.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, they're doing this, they're doing this. They being, you know, immigrants. I'm like, no, man. Like, bro, I live 7 miles from the border.
We've been able to integrate our communities, and then, you know, the economic power of our binational region is not only impacting San Diego, but it's statewide and national, global. And so I think I feel like that's one of my jobs, is like being the ambassador of our binational community, letting people know that the 4 states across the border really have a wonderful opportunity to elevate who we are as fronterizos, which is really a community that is integrated, socioeconomically and politically, you know, integrated. And for all of us who have the privilege of being able to go back and forth, it is a very different experience.
And you are a great representative of such. I appreciate you,
Thank you.
coming in and sharing some thoughts, sharing some time. After the election, everything goes your way, come back. We'll do a wrap up. We'll do
Yes,
the whole
sir.
thing all over again, Ms. Nora Vargas.
All right. You got it.
Thank you very much,
Thank you
ladies
for
and
the
gentlemen.
time.
County Supervisor Nora Vargas.